agriculture expenditure, Narega, but then also the announcement of schemes like the supply of food grains. Mitali, let me get you in for your first comments and then Sandeep. Mitali.
Thanks, Barkha. Very nice to be here today. So I think I'm just going to start with my top three hits and top three misses, just to
Sure.
lay the
Yeah.
context. The first one, in my view, the increased capital investment by, the 33% increase to the 10 lakh crores, huge hit, hugely helpful to the overall macro picture. The second, which I think we haven't talked about so far in the show, is the Urban Infrastructure Development Fund for Tier 2 and 3 cities, the UIDF. That is a need of the hour. I have been going to pretty much every Tier 2 and 3 city in the last 6 months. And when we look at Varanasi, when we look at Guwahati, the cities are bursting. So I think this is very much, a timely intervention, but we have to see how much is allocated to this fund. The third big hit, in my opinion, is the PM Pranam for use of the alternative fertilizers. So yes, we are talking about food grains and we are talking about millets, etc. But just this entire funding to bring in alternative indigenous fertilizers is very timely and can also help in reducing the fertilizer subsidy in the long run. So these are my top three hits. Now, in top three misses, the first one is millets, again, because we were talking about food grains and it was the year where we want to make India the global hub of millet production. But in order to do that, we also need to have more subsidies for millets coming in, which is something that we didn't see in this budget. And it could have been announced, especially since 2023 is the year of millets. The second one is around green growth. There was a lot of talk today and a lot of focus on it. But again, we didn't talk about coal replacement. We didn't talk about renewable energy. So how are we talking about green growth? Okay. And then the last third miss, according to me, is the gender budget. As I always say, every year, the gender budget has only increased by 2.6. There's nothing imaginative in the gender budget. It's the same set of points.
Let me play that. Let me play that. It's interesting that you should say that it didn't go far enough on women's empowerment, because Ms. Sitharaman made a big point, and I could see the parliament cameras cutting to all of the women parliamentarians. So let's just listen to what the FM said on the gender budget, the dimension of spending on women. In fact, empowerment of women was one of the 7 principles, the Saptarishi, as the FM described it, the 7 guiding principles of this budget. Let's listen.
Economic empowerment of women. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission has achieved remarkable success by mobilizing rural women into 81 lakh self-help groups. We will enable these groups to reach of economic empowerment through formation of large producer enterprises or collectives, with each having several thousand members and managed professionally. They will be helped with raw materials supply and for better design, quality, branding, and marketing of their products. Through supporting these policies, they will be enabled to scale up their operations to serve the large consumer markets, as has been the case with the several startups growing into unicorns.
Okay, you felt, Mitali, that it didn't go far enough. Why is that? Can we unmute Mitali? Mitali, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Now go ahead. Yeah.
Am I audible now? Okay, great. Yeah. So I think if we look at the composition of the gender budget, actually the entire announcement that was made about scaling up the SHGs to form large producer organizations is not actually written in the gender budget. It's not included in the gender budget. So the first problem with the gender budget is really the accounting of it, the fact that a lot of schemes may have gender elements, but they're not written out in the gender budget. The second issue is with the composition and the imagination of the schemes themselves. We are still thinking about those self-help groups as being the only way we can bring women into the workforce. However, we need to think about actually scaling up schemes like Narega, bringing an urban Narega, and trying to create more and more jobs for women, even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which is where they are losing jobs at the maximum rate. And this is actually not being done and not being included in the. And the third aspect is around the infrastructure access to women. we don't actually have any sort of imagination of how can the entire time that is spent by women in water collection, the time spent by women in care work, and actually care economy infrastructure investments, none of that is there in the gender budget. So we really have just carried forward more of the same instead of bringing in more of an
Okay.
imaginative feature.
Okay. Okay. I want to